Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope you are all in good condition. So, I'd like to welcome you on our discussion today about literary decorum and the function of literature to teach and to delight, or utile dulce. But first, let me introduce our group members. My name is Rifki Ramdhani. Next to me is Nabila Safarini, Nisana Yaza, and Regita Tinezia. So please pay attention and enjoy it.
Hi everyone, I'm Nabila, and our first topic is poetic license. Poetic license is generally translated as poet freedom. The basis for understanding is to provide rights, freedom for poets not to obey certain rules in using language. In other words, to convey a message, the author is allowed to ignore linguistic norms. In the simple sense, all literary works are poetic licenses. The use of parables, figures of speech, and symbols in various forms in old literature is the author's freedom. Likewise, with the use of free forms, new forms, deviations, and even works as tools to lie in modern literature. This can exist and occurs because every poet, of course, has a style of expression in their respective poetry. Often poets violate many linguistic rules in order to achieve sentences that match their expectation and characteristics. Poetic license identification is also divided into two types. First, the traditional poetic license. In this traditional poetic license, the way of presenting works is based on the consequence of the limitation of words, concept, and other cultural elements, so that the poet has no other choice. The second is the license of modern poetry, a freedom that should be exploited because only then can the aesthetic aspect be displayed. Apart from the various types of poetic licenses, there are indicators why poetic licensing is carried out. The first is the essence of literary works is actually the result of imagination, subjective creativity. In the process of creating a work, it is as if an author is not bound by formal rules and logic because all these rules are considered to limit creativity. The second is literary works are born because they are created and designed from non-existent phenomena into existence, in accordance with the motto which states that poets are born, not because they learn. The last is the fact that the reader is fully aware that what he is reading is literary work, and the reader is willing to take pains to understand it. However, these various deviations are not interpreted as negative because the deviation is used as a way to convey a deeper meaning so that the real meaning appears. So the deviation actually has a positive impact.
So the next topic is about literary decorum. Will be explained by me, Nishyana Yaza. According to Horace emphasizes decorum, by which he means the adherence to good taste and the relation of parts to wholes. Decorum for Horace is the avoidance of incongruities. The very first sentence in Ars Poetica juxtaposes a human head and horse neck, a beautiful woman's torso at the tail of a hideous fish, and rhetorically asks if this were not ludicrous. Therefore, he would warn the poet never to confuse the genres or to mingle tragedy with comedy. After the term tragicomedy would certainly have evoked his censure, but it is not merely the genre which must be appropriate, but even the subject matter presented in the work, for it should accord with the poet's power. And then, decorumness must be maintained in language too. Unless the speeches are in harmony with the feelings, the audience would burst out in laughter. Pathetic language is appropriate to the face of sorrow, and violent language to the face of anger. A sportive diction goes with merry looks and serious with rap language. The language should vary according to the personality, and it will make a great difference if a god or hero is speaking, an old man or a proud youth, a roving merchant or a prospering farmer. Further, not only the general speech, but even the words must be chosen with care and subtlety. The meter should be in tune with the same theme. Iambic is fit for satire, and elegiac couplet for lament. And then, suitability. So, if you are tragedian, your tone must be serious, your language heightened, and your characters noble. If, instead, you choose to compose a comedy, then make sure your tone, language, and characters are taken from the lower echelons of society. Don't mix things together that should not be mixed. Suit your manner to your matter, or your audience will laugh at you. If you take up well-established characters, then present those characters properly. The next topic is about characterization. In order for decorum literary to run well, it also needs good characterization. First, about character, Horace emphasizes on consistency of character. He also adds that the mannerisms and habits of the character should tally with the person being represented in terms of age, education, status, temperament, and other factors. Characters must be consistent and true to type. Characters drawn from traditional legends must preserve their traditional traits. A different treatment of such characters will make them unreal and unconvincing. Similarly, characters must fit their ages. Further, every new character must be consistent, behaving in the same manner at the end as at the beginning. On the other side, characterization must be appropriate. One must note the behavior of the people of varying ages and give the right kind of manners to characters of various disposition and years. The next topic is about how to be a convincing dramatic character. First, a play should not have more than 5 acts, and there must not be more than 3 characters in any one scene. The god should not intervene unless absolutely essential. The denouement should logically follow from the preceding incident. The chorus should form an integral part of the play. Iambic meter should be used. The Greek models should be followed. To achieve excellence, the poet must read the Greek master by day and think of them by night.
Hi, I'm Ripki. I will explain to you about pre-requirements of a good poet. The first in importance of this qualification is wisdom. Wisdom can be defined as the perception of things or events in their temporal, social, religious, intellectual, and personal context, and in their relation to the totality of things. With Horace, if we can judge by his own works, much of this wisdom was to be expressed in what we know as didacticism. It was to aid the function of poetry which he emphasized so much. As we have seen, few of the modern critics or poets would admit this formal teaching to be a part of poetry. But insofar as a film in this first place should offer us new perception, not only of the exterior universe, but of human experience as well. It should add, in other words, to what we have already seen. There is no film which does not teach. For this transference of experience, whether it's in percept or in concept wisdom, the wisdom which Horace asks is necessary above all, except for telling the poet to watch life and use it and its custom as his model. Horace gives little advice on how to attain this wisdom. True, he tells us that from we can learn much of life, but for the rest, we have life itself for our teacher. Horace himself learned what he knew of wisdom. Fundamental then in the make-up of Horace's ideal poet in this quality, this habit of wisdom. The next is care. Horace's advice to his ideal poet to work slowly, to revise often. This feeling of dissatisfaction has been known by the greatest of poets. Since the time of Horace, years have made it a commonplace among writers and in textbooks of writing. The advocates of untrammeled, unrevised writing are few and seldom successful. But it is from Horace that much of the respect for vision and the admiration for careful work stem. Over and over again in his work, he gives this advice and his practice confirms his precept. This whole section of the advice will tell the young son of Viso the necessity of revision and change if the work is to be worth anything. He lists some of faults to be guarded against, such as sluggishness, harshness, lack of polish, pompousness, obscurity, and ambiguity. For though this might to friends seem to be tripless, actually they will bring scorn down even the poet. There is little room left for self-satisfaction after such an enumeration of dangers and faults. In the epistles, again, he says that the good poet, the ideal of the picture, will change and cut out and polish and move forward around. Horace's own ideas show the result of such revision and care. The studied felicity of expressions of which we hear so much from those who love Horace can only be the product of hard work. These two, wisdom and care, are the chief qualifications which the writer of poetry must have if he is to be successful. Without them, it is hard to see how any man can be more than a hasty.
My name is Regita Tenezia, and I'm going to explain about the concept of to teach and to delight, or utile dulce. Utile dulce is one of the concepts of literature according to Horace. This concept is one of the important points in literary criticisms, so that people will think about literature. Horace argued that literary work, especially poetry, needs a great values, useful, beautiful, and utile dulce. Utile duce itself in Latin means sweet and useful, which means that in a literary work, a util or useful is needed, which is to provide benefits and instructions for the readers, and dulce or sweet, which provides delightful enjoyment. Horace himself is more interested in a writer's ability to please and to teach readers than in explaining what is contained in a poem. In Art of Poetry, Horace stated that the aim of a poet is to inform or delight, or combine together in what he says both pleasure and application to life. The point of what he said is that a writer must create a literary work that not only provides delight for the reader, but can also give the reader an important and useful message. According to him, such literary works will benefit publishers, writers, and even readers who get useful things from literary works. In his thoughts or ideas, Horace was influenced by previous philosophers such as Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. With the explanation from before regarding utile duce, Horace stated that a good literary work has 5 important points, namely novelty, responsibility, suitability, affecting, and beautiful. The first is novelty. Horace stated that in addition to using taste and care in constructing words, you will be more effective if you introduce novelty to familiar words in a skillful manner. According to him, new words will continue to appear, develop, and be more interesting to use in a literary work. If such a thing happens, the old word will die, but it is likely that the dead words will rise again, and the words that we previously thought were new and interesting will begin to die out. And that is the nature of words. The second is responsibility. It is intended that a writer must take responsibility for their writings. They must direct or impart good things to readers, rather than give or direct things that are deviant. The third is suitability. It means, in literary works, don't mix a genre. As Horace said, let each style keep the place to which it belongs. This means Horace said that every genre has its place, not in a comedy genre but written in a tragedy style. The form and the content of a literary work must be appropriate. The fourth is affecting. As Horace said, it is not enough for poems to be beautiful. They must be affecting and must lead the heart of the hearer as they will. This means that the work must make the reader feel the same way as the content in a poem. Readers must feel sympathy and understand the conditions that occur in the literary work. Therefore, writers should not only pay attention to the beauty of their literary works, but the writer must also be able to carefully monitor the reader or listener so they understand and feel what is happening in the literary work. The last one is beautiful. To provide a feeling of delightful, not only paying attention to how a literary work affects the reader, but also a literary work must show the beauty of the literary work through the language, words, and messages contained in the literary work.
Thank you very much for your great attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.